Good morning and welcome to the House Environment Committee. We are looking at an amendment to S212 introduced by Representatives Greer and Chapin. And I will let them orient us to what's happened over the weekend and then walk through it with our legislative council.
Thank you. I guess I'll just say Representative Greer and our legislative council worked to sort of narrow the focus of what had been the previous amendments from Representative Greer, really focused on really just on this piece around looking at well, we just tried to narrow it more for what the TAC would be working on, and tried to think about the legal piece also. And I made sure we ran it by A&R and got their input. And so we're looking at something that I believe is more narrow and targeted on the issue, and seems to work for A&R. Thank you.
And I'll just add that, I think that this is fully within the scope of A&R based on their feedback. This is kind of the first step to getting to a place where we can address the issue more in 2027. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
And are you thinking of this as a replacement amendment then?
It's a substitute.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Good morning. This is Mike O'Grady with Legislative Council. You should have in front of you an amendment to 212 with a draft 3.1, a 5/19 date, and a 9:02 a.m. timestamp. This would add a new section to S212 as you would propose to the Senate. It creates a report from the Technical Advisory Committee at the Agency of Natural Resources. The Technical Advisory Committee is a statutory committee under the Potable Water Supply and Wastewater Systems chapter. And that report would address overshadowing of property by potable water supplies and wastewater system. You'll remember that overshadowing is when the isolation distances that are required around a potable water supply or wastewater system extend onto the property of others and potentially limit the use of that property. So on or before January 15th, the Secretary reports to you regarding authority under state statute and rules that allows the isolation distances for potable water supplies and wastewater systems to extend onto neighboring property, practice commonly referred to as overshadowing. In preparing the report, the TAC shall summarize the scientific and technical basis and benefit to the environment and public health from overshadowing. It will evaluate alternatives to overshadowing that could prevent or significantly limit overshadowing of property and recommend preferred alternatives. It will present data on the frequency of overshadowing and on the different alternatives or types of outcomes that occur when overshadowing exists. It will recommend additional steps the Agency of Natural Resources can take to support the resolution of issues that may occur between neighbors when overshadowing occurs. And then it will provide any additional information that the TAC deems relevant to address the issue of overshadowing. Any recommendation, we're now on page 2, line 7, by the TAC may be presented as draft legislation or draft amendment to rules. The TAC may submit the report as part of that committee's annual report to the General Assembly. There was discussion, as Rep. Chapin noted, about a legal analysis or recommending whether compensation will be required. That was removed. Do you want me to comment further on that?
Or I can. We got the chair of judiciary to weigh in, and he contacted the Bar Association, and the Bar Association said they'd be happy to be consulted and sort of support some analysis of previous decisions that have been made, things that have happened in the courts, compensation, the Supreme Court decision that happened a year and a half ago, I think is the time frame of that. We just really decided it's not the tax area of expertise and didn't really fit here, but that it's certainly a project that legislators and legal counsel can work on, especially because the Bar Association's already offered to spend some time with us on this topic. And so in between Representative Greer and myself and anybody else who's interested, we can work on that with Michael and others for next session to sort of in parallel with the tax work, so that next session, the legislature will have the report from the TAC as well as some thinking from the Bar Association and others to really look at the options. That's where we left it.
Did you want to add anything?
No, I mean, there are multiple alternatives out there across the country. Not every state has first in time, although I think first in time is pretty common in New England. But in other states, you need some authority of release, an easement, legal approval in order to overshadow. And so there are alternatives that you could look at from legal schemes in other states.
Brian Redmond, can you speak to your perspective on the amendment?
Sure. For the record, Brian Redmond, Director of the Drinking Water and Groundwater Protection Division in the Agency of Natural Resources. So this amendment did receive agency feedback, and we provided some comment and believe that it has narrowed the scope to what's in the wheelhouse of the TAC, and continue to support the amendment. This is an issue that we feel is ripe for reevaluation from the 2010 by the TAC, so we'd use that information as a basis to move forward. And we believe that the direction in the amendment will provide the foundation for us to reevaluate overshadowing requirements and produce a new report. So we support the amendment.
All right, great. I guess I just have questions about capacity, which came up. The underlying bill will require capacity. Can you speak to a little bit about the TAC and how it works and how much staff time the TAC requires just for their ongoing works?
Sure. So Bruce Douglas, who you have all heard from within the context of 212, is the current chair of the TAC. It's a group of practitioners representing those that work in wastewater systems and potable water supplies. They're currently meeting quarterly. And it was actually at a higher cadence than that. Previously, we've moved it back to quarterly to allow more time on committee to do the work. We've recently done some stakeholder engagement with the members of the TAC to identify focal point areas. Clearly, there's other issues of interest to the TAC than just overshadowing and isolation distances. Inquiry those issues. And so we have a list of priorities. And what I was saying to Representative Chapin earlier is that, this report and this report, there's no doubt it's gonna consume their bandwidth between now and January. So it is going to replace some other priorities. But with that, we do feel that it is ripe for a reevaluation, and again, would welcome the opportunity to do the work. This is something I personally have engaged the TAC with as recently as last year, asking them to evaluate other alternatives. So I think the time's right. It will just require some reprioritization of the work by that committee. S212 carries a pretty significant burden for the agency to stand up the general permitting work that is envisioned there, both in the municipal connections realm and then any future general permits. Again, we feel that this upfront effort is really worthwhile, so we can reposition our resources to better serve Vermonters, to better get better outcomes from environmental and public health. So we are ready. We've been working on these provisions for a few years now, so we stand ready to stand those up. It's going to be a busy summer. And the thing is the permitting caseload, I've said this before, this particular program issues more permits than all of DEC combined. So just think about that, 3,000-ish permits a year. And they do have very good response times. Our average response time is 18 days for permit issuance. So it's a lot, but we feel like this is a long-term investment in the future. And both these issues are really pertinent. Overshadowing is trying to work out something that meets the needs a little bit better than the current system is the evaluation that's gonna happen. And then in the general permitting framework, trying to make things more efficient for our resources so they can be invested where they'll have the most benefit.
What are the other priorities of the TAC that would be reorganized?
There are several. I don't have the results of the survey with me, but housing related issues for sure. High strength wastewater is one that we're very interested in looking at. Application rates.
What is high strength wastewater?
High strength wastewater it triggers requirements when the strength of the wastewater is such, it usually requires one of two things, either upsizing the size of the leach field and the septic system itself, or advanced treatment. And you'll find it on things that have high BOD. Generally, the nature of the wastewater is more cloudy, for lack of a better term, and requires advanced treatment to protect groundwater. And that's an issue that's pretty significant.
How would the TAC be looking at housing?
They would be looking at some of the same things that we talked about in this committee, like lower capacity compact systems, looking at design flows for different for housing, and yeah, just a reevaluation to make sure that the standards are meeting the needs for the development of housing, especially in compact areas.
Members have questions for any of the folks? Representative Austin, then Morris.
Yep. I think it's safe to assume that this, the recommendation, whatever came out of it, will not be retroactive to current homeowners. Is that a safe assumption? Uh-oh, it's a long pause.
You have possibility for retroactivity. That's all I can really say. Because I don't know what the details would be, but there's potential. Especially if it's short-term duration, like permit issued in the last 1 to 5 years. There's greater constitutional support for that type of retroactivity.
This is a report back.
Yeah.
Folded into the regular report back.
Yeah.
So that would be something that a future legislature would take up.
If they'd have to, yeah.
Decide about. So, yeah, it's a policy question. Representative Morris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael, this is good, and I think it does answer one of my questions, looking for alternatives for overshadowing from a leach field, et cetera, or septic tank. But number 4 on page 2 talks about Agency of Natural Resources will support the resolution of issues that may occur between neighbors. This in no way is going to alleviate or prevent any civil action between neighbors. It can
No,
always happen.
no, but I mean, I have to ask Brian if it still exists, but is there still that administrative appeal within the rules for a permit for wastewater? So there are tools that are already in the rules where there's going to be a permit issue, the neighbor can administratively appeal that and ask for reconsideration by the department or for redesign of the system. And so you could have potential other tools like that that would allow for resolution of those issues. And the A&R would be involved in.
And the case in point is a future owner of the property that's overshadowed would still have availability to.
We still have availability, yes, and I think one of the things I'll probably be tasked with doing this summer is looking at the takings precedent from Vermont on overshadowing, and you know, there was just, I don't know, it wasn't just, but the last case I remember was like from 2024, 2025, and the court said it wasn't a take. And that's because takings analysis is much more nuanced and fact specific than most people realize. Just because government regulation impacts your property or may restrict a use of your property, it doesn't mean it's a taking.
Right, further questions? Thank you to everyone that worked on this, the weekend, yesterday. Really appreciate that effort that you've made. All right, all those in favor of this amendment, raise your hand. Seeing everyone in favor, that's 11-0 in favor. We are adjourned for the morning.